The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, MySites for Everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If this is your first time here, our 30 on Thursdays webinar series is a bi-weekly series designed to keep you updated on the hottest tips, trends, and products for Microsoft SharePoint. Our next webinar will be on July 24th, where we will see Governance, Automation, and SharePoint with AvePoint. If you are interested in registering for this webinar or to see our full schedule of upcoming webinars, you can visit our page at susqtech.com/webinars. Also, we will be recording today's presentation, and you can find that recording and all of our archived recordings at susqtech.com/archivedwebinars. Also, if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, please insert them in the question window to the right of your screen. We will get to as many as possible at the end of the presentation today. So today's session topic is MySites for Everyone. Our presenter is Julie Muccillo, Senior Solutions Architect here at SusQtech. I am Julia Oates, the Marketing Coordinator, and I will be moderating today's session. So let's get started. I'm going to make Julie presenter.
Okay, we are going to get started. We good, Julia? Can you see the presentation?
Yep, everything looks great.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I know this is a topic that a lot of people have had a lot of interesting experiences with over the years with SharePoint and with MySites, so I'm really excited to just share with you some details about MySites and what they can do for you, a little bit about what they cannot do for you, and then hopefully have some time for some Q&A at the end where we can answer some questions, and we are ready to go. So I'm going to get right into it because our time is short, so let's go. So a little bit about the history of MySites. From 2007 to 2010, there was a pretty big effort on Microsoft's part to change what a MySite was. So in 2007, if any of you had the experience of dealing with the MySites in 2007, they were not very friendly. They were a bit confusing. They didn't have very much flexibility in terms of being able to add web parts or site template, being able to change that site template. And in fact, I would say over the dozens of intranets that I helped design during that time in 2007, we maybe turned MySites on 1 or 2 times because we determined it would be too confusing, and we went with alternative solutions for things like a staff directory, some personal content areas and that sort of thing. It just really didn't meet the needs that people were looking for in a way that was valuable to organizations. So some people spent a lot of time on them and got them to work well, but coming right out of the box, they were pretty difficult to use. In 2010, there's a lot more flexibility in terms of what you can do with those MySites. And the other big thing that really is the differentiator is there is a focus on connecting you to other colleagues and being able to really share content, being able to follow content, being able to sort of track what you're interested in your intranet, that sort of thing. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. A lot better usability. It just looks better. It looks like a site that you might see today. It's got some good features and functionality, but there's still a few gotchas in there, and we'll go over those as well as we go through the process here. So why are MySites important? Some of you guys have seen the MySite in 2010, and we'll take a look at a pretty vanilla version of it, and you can see there's a lot of different features. But these are the key pieces that, as a solutions architect, as somebody who uses SharePoint a lot, these are the things I think you should look at as a benefit to your organization. And even if you only turn on a few pieces of MySites, these elements are most important. First of all, what it does is it allows you the opportunity for user-generated content and more accuracy in your content. One of the biggest reasons people state that they don't use their company's intranet is because the information is out of date, it's irrelevant. You know, maybe I moved department or moved locations, or my phone number has changed, and that stuff gets stale in some of the other systems, and then that information doesn't stay up to date. So with the MySites in 2010, you can control a lot of that so that users can actually update their own information, and we'll go through a little bit of that today so you can really see what I'm talking about. Another thing that I really believe firmly that people had previously spent tons of time thinking about was a skills database, right? I planned out multiple skills databases with my clients over the 2000s, and what this does is allow a user to say, you know what, I'm really good at SharePoint design, I'm good at information architecture, and I happen to know this piece of software. I can type that into my profile in a few minutes, and if somebody searches for those pieces of, for those software or that particular skill set, that's going to come up just in the regular SharePoint search, and we'll take a look at that as well. And that leads to my final bullet point down there, which is just simple findability through search. So my title is Solutions Architect, but that doesn't tell you everything that I do, everything that I'm good at, what I might be able to help you with. And so there may be terms that I enter or a description I enter that you may search on and will be able to find me in an organization. And this gets really important as groups are growing, getting bigger and bigger. Maybe you have multiple offices and you just don't know, who you can reach out to. And this really helps because people are able to sort of define what they can, what they're good at, what their skills are, and then be able to connect to your colleagues that way. So those are the things that I think, if nothing else, MySites can do that right out of the box very easily and give you a lot of value. So the basics of MySites, and we're going to take a look at one in just a second. There's My Profile, which is where we're going to spend most of the time today. There's the concept of My Site, so that's what people see when they click on your profile and kind of be able to look at who you are, what you do. And My Site also has things like content. You can keep things like allow people to create their own individual blogs. You don't have to, but that's one of the features that the MySites provide. Then there's also My Content, and so all of these pieces together sort of compose the MySite experience. Inside of My Profile, which we're going to go into, is several tabs, and we're going to look at a very vanilla version of this, and then we're going to look at some customized versions of this. But it gives you an overview of a person, what their organization and who they work for, who they work with, content that they may be generating, tags and notes throughout the site. Another thing about SharePoint 2010 as a sidebar, you can tag things with the managed metadata. You can make notes on pages, you can like pages, and the My Profile kind of tracks all of that and shows what you're interested in. It also allows you to connect to colleagues and be able to sort of see what they're doing, really find out what's going on with them. And then also there's memberships, which isn't as often used, but we can take a look at that as well. So I'm going to jump into the demo, and the things that I'm going to focus on today are editing your profile, looking at the Ask Me About feature, looking at colleagues, and then the content tags and notes. So we'll just jump right into that. Okay. So this is a site that is fairly vanilla. This is one of our demo sites. You may or may not have seen this in the past if you've talked with us. And what this is a simple profile. This is my profile in this particular site. And there's a few elements I want to point out. One is the element at the top which says View My Profile as seen by everyone. Now you can drop this down and see that you could have a profile that looks a little bit different depending on who is reviewing your profile. So you could have colleagues, manager, yourself, and this will make sense in a minute, but basically you can actually tailor your site so that certain types of information is only exposed to certain people. So as an organization, you can set policies that say, I only want to set certain fields visible to a manager or to colleagues or people in your own department, that sort of thing. and then people are able to sort of get different levels of information. So this is my profile. In this particular one, I have my Ask Me About SharePoint 2010, exercise therapy, SharePoint training, and design. So if someone were to search for me in this environment and they typed in exercise therapy, I would come up as a match. I'll show you overall structure. If we look at the this is a demo site, and there's not as many sort of pieces of information there. So actually, I might chart that these are all the folks that are with me here. If I and I know this is something that everyone was really excited for, but unless you you can see, I can browse this tree of information and see who belongs to who works with whom, and really get a sense of the overall organization and where I sit, who my colleagues are. We're going to go ahead and go to the Content tab, and you can see that right now I haven't really set up a lot of content that's available through the profile. But I am working on a blog in this case, so I do have a blog link, and you can kind of throughout a site. So relate to exercise therapy, I can actually tag that, and when other people back in the main site, then I've tagged some things in the past with that tag as well. So I could actually jump back to that, and this is really in the out-of-the-box application. So if I go back to the overview, profile information filled in. So if I went and see that. One of the things that by policy, by default, find my phone number, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here and save that. And you can see there's a lot of fields that you can update yourself in this circumstance. Most of them are by default seen by everyone, but these are things that as an organization you can choose what a user can control essentially. So if I want, by policy, everyone to be able to see my mobile phone, which is by default here. So let's say your cell phones are all distributed by the company and you have to be available by the mobile phone. You could even, sort of feed this in from another source if you had it, or if not, everyone gets to see that phone number. But if I go ahead and I'm just going to fill in that as well so you can see. And we're going to go ahead and save this. And if I look at everyone now, this is my profile as viewed by everyone. You can click on this, and you can see that my mobile phone now shows up. What you can also see is if I choose the view that's my colleagues specifically, and I go check out that information, my home phone number also shows up. So that's a nice way to sort of tailor that information and be able to sort of obscure that information so that people aren't taking a look at that if that's not something that you want everyone to see. Just an FYI behind the scenes, and I'm not sure if a lot of you have seen the sort of management of this behind the scenes, but in central administration, you can manage all of these user properties. This is actually a different site, but you can see that you can map it if you have another data source where that's coming from so that people cannot edit it. But then, anything that you want people to be able to edit, you can also have them update those things. You can set different types of information about it. So let's say if we kind of scroll down through here and we take a look at the home phone, for instance, and I'm just going to, you can see what the display is going to be. You can see this is an optional field, so this is a really key point for people who are really interested in controlling sort of who sees what, who can modify what, et cetera, et cetera. You can change that field to required, you can change it to disabled, you can set the default privacy settings, and then you can decide to what you're looking to show. All right, I'm going to jump back into the front about, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to bring you back to our site as we're building this out. One of the things, skills database essentially, by people entering the information about themselves. It's a much more organic way to grow your. Ask Me About is populated with a few different things, associations being one of them for Amanda. Now, for Terry, that's just in line with some of the stuff that he wrote. He wrote a little paragraph on his title. It's not in his department, but he said, I've been working with associations for many years now, so I can search on that and really get that. Other things that people might put in, or their school, or some of their, their skill sets, like I'm a project manager, I've been to these conferences. So this is a great way to let people be self-declarative about what they do. And I think that's really powerful inside an organization because, again, people have spent so much money trying to sort of do a normalized database of skills when really, in a way, this is much more intuitive, and it only takes a few minutes. So if we go take a look at me, actually, we'll see that I haven't had a chance to fill in a lot of those things yet. I sort of purposely kept it open so that we could see how those are populated. So if I go to edit my profile here, I can take a look. There's a number of fields here that are coming from our, from our Active Directory, from our database. I could go ahead and type in sort of a paragraph like Terry had, or I can do the Ask Me About. And Ask Me About can be a couple of things. One is it picks up the manage metadata tags that you already have. So I am a SharePoint expert, certainly. I am also handy with design. And also, we encourage personal stuff as well here. So I'm also going to say I am knowledgeable about St. Bernards. So if anyone has a problem with the dog, they can come to me and kind of find out. So you can type in things like that that maybe are not part of the formal taxonomy, but you may want people to know. So if we now go and kind of take a look a little bit at what I've posted. Oh, there we go. St. Bernards becomes sort of an item that you could search on me for, as well as design and SharePoint, which are some of our standard taxonomy terms. So there's really a lot you can do with this. One of the things I wanted to show you too is a little bit of customization that we've done before. So the MySite, obviously, if you take a look at this one, we don't have the same tabs as this guy, because right now we're not really doing memberships. We're still building out, we're still kind of organizing the content, but you can actually change the web parts that are here, the tabs, with a little bit of design and a little bit of extra work. And one of the things that one of our clients asked us to do is actually use MySites for an external facing site, so for their memberships. And this is the American Osteopathic Association, osteopathic.org, and their members see a different type of MySite. So they have a whole My AOA tab where information is fed to them. They can request to add new colleagues. We put some additional functionality in there where they can actually request the colleague and then the colleague accepts it. So we'll get to this in a sec, but there's a little bit of difference in how it works out of the box. And then we can also recommend content to them based on their profile. So if we hop over to this person's profile, they can see some of the activities, and then if they want to go in and take a look at their profile, they have a number of interests that they can actually select management system and their membership system. So there's them to be able to take advantage of MySites, but sort of tailor it for an external user experience with the information that makes sense. So I think we've gone through most of these topics, and there are a few things that we should know. One, as I mentioned before, that anything that you put in your profile is searchable, so that terms and phrases and things like that can be searched later, and colleagues can use that to find one another and then share information or try and educate each other. The other thing that I was just mentioning is it's a Twitter-like nature. So I can follow any colleague that I want. There is no sort of request, friend request like there is on Facebook. So it works much more like Twitter than Facebook. If Terry wants to follow me, he can follow me. There's nothing I can do out of the box to prevent him from following me. So we have built some components that actually make a request, like I was talking about for AOA, and then people actually have to approve the colleague following, and sometimes that's more appropriate in certain situations. There's really no security other than what I was showing you on the profile fields, and then the other thing is there are usability issues with it, right? So some of the downsides, as we kind of go through this is it's still its own site and its own navigation. So if we go back to sort of that vanilla demo site, if you notice, there's nothing else here other than content, you know, and links about my sites, my content. But really, I got to this site from this main site. So I lost all of this navigation by default. It's its own animal. But go back to, you know, our concept. We have kept our top level navigation even though I'm looking at my sites. If I click on people, I get the people directory, and these are all my site profiles and the, sort of the staff listing, but it's integrated into the top. So we've done some work to make sure that out of the box. So there are still some confusing, people don't really want to use this content bucket because it just looks like a blog, and in some cases that's fine, but other cases you're really trying to create information management policies, and maybe you don't want people to be able to do that. So you need to think about, you know, the fact that you may want just acquired or is in the process of acquiring Yammer. I'm sure we'll see some, you know, impact of that very, you know, in the not too distant future. So it's important to Microsoft that we're creating these online communities. You know, remains to be seen. We don't really have any information on this acquisition and what it's going to mean, but I'm sure that to take a look at that. So in summary, to make it more usable, you might want to hide some things. You're definitely going to want to work on the navigation a little bit, maybe pulling it into your primary site. And there's other tools that exist for this purpose that provide additional features. Didn't have a lot of time to get into that today, but the topic was MySites, so we stuck with that. And we're officially, I think, at 1 o'clock. So Julia, if there are topics, if there are questions, anything that you want to shoot my way, and we can answer a few questions, and then hopefully if you have some, we could also answer those in a blog or in a follow-up.
Yes, we have some questions here. You may want to keep presenter rights. Or did you switch them back over? Okay. Just because some people asked for you to show some things. The first one was in the AOA example. Where did they store the profile information?
So that's a great question. And the content is fed from their management system. So they have, I believe they have IMIS. Don't quote me on that, but I believe they have IMIS, and all that information is authoritatively coming from IMIS, but the things that can be updated in that profile are sort of like extra information that that's in the user profile store. So that stuff is sitting in the user profile store, but in that central admin page I was showing you, you can actually source different properties from different places. So we're taking that information from IMIS, and that's, you know, that's sort of the authoritative stuff. So it's not going back and updating it, but we're adding other fields that those users can update.
Okay. Another question is, are tags searchable by others, and can you show an example?
Are tags searchable by others? Yes, tags are searchable. So let's go to, let's see. I think what we'll do is trying to think of the best site that will get me the best results for you. Well, the answer is tags are searchable, and actually tags are part of the search refinement. So if we go and search for, I'm just going to use a word that I know, something came up last time. So associations. I hope I spelled that right. I just can't see it right now. Okay. That there are tags down here that are actual refinement tags, and you can look and see search results that also are tied to certain tags.
Oh, could you show your screen, Julie?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not very helpful, is it? I can't see my screen. Sorry. So I searched for, I searched for the word associations, but what's also coming up is tags. And so anytime someone has tagged a document with any term through the search mechanism. So if you are looking for a particular tag, you can also type that tag in, and then anything that has been tagged by a person, you can see that. Now also, so if we go back to this page, this is something that people can see. So you can see that I've tagged things through exercise therapy, with exercise therapy, and I like it. But again, the search results brings back anything that's tagged with those.
Okay, great. Let's see. So we can follow up with that one really fast. Is the search results using out-of-the-box search or fast search?
This is just, and I'm 99% sure we are not using fast search in this scenario. This is just the normal, this is our people page here. And let's say I'm going to find somebody I'm pretty sure I'm not connected to yet in the new system. So let's say it's kind of inside of SharePoint, but a colleague can be anybody. Muck up our real site, but right now I have Terry. He's not on my team, but if I wanted to edit Terry, I could actually edit that and say he's on my team, or I could add him to a new interest group. And then essentially, for the most part in MySites, what that is.
We're going to do 2 more questions really quick. If you update profile info, be controlled with the workflow so that a manager can view the updates and override it.
So the answer is if something is coming from Active Directory, the best practice is that you want to make sure that Active Directory is actually the authoritative source for that. And in some cases, in our case, we want those to go through.
Okay, great. One more question. Have you ever seen MySites used for department function sites to replace department intranet sites?
No.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay, great. You could just switch me back to presenter.
Sure. There you go. Thanks everyone for all of your questions and your attention today. I appreciate it.